All right, class, let's begin with a short activity. For the next few minutes, I want you to roam around, inside and outside the classroom. As you walk, observe your surroundings carefully and list down at least 3 things that you think could cause injury or harm. You can do this individually or in groups. When you return, we'll talk about what you found. During our discussion, I'll ask you a few questions. Now for the questions. How did you find the activity? What areas of the school campus did you visit? And most importantly, what are the 3 things you listed that could cause injury or harm? Now, do you already have an idea of what our lesson objectives will be? Well, by the end of our lesson, you'll be able to identify the hazards and risks that exist in ICT environments, those little things that could cause accidents or damage equipment. You'll also learn to enumerate the 5 S principles for organizing ICT environments, which help keep our workspace safe, clean, and efficient. So as we go through the lesson, think about how these ideas apply to your own classroom or computer lab. Ready? Let's get started. All right, class, let's take a look at this pool of words. Our challenge is to find those that mean the same as hazard. Now listen closely. Words like threat, peril, danger, risk, accident, and harm all carry the idea of something unsafe or harmful. They are the ones connected to hazard. Meanwhile, words such as protection, safe, secure, and convenient do not belong in the hazard group. These words suggest safety, comfort, or security instead. So remember, whenever we hear the word hazard, we should connect it with risk, danger, or harm, not with safety. Now take a close look at this picture. What do you notice about the electrical cords? That's right, one cord is frayed and even worn out. Why does this matter? Because frayed electrical cords are a clear example of a hazard. A hazard is anything that can cause harm to you or to others. In this case, damaged cords could easily lead to an electrical shock. So what should be done right away? Yes, very good. The cords should be unplugged and removed from use. They need to be repaired or replaced with safe, intact wiring. The area should also be kept tidy to prevent tangling, and workers should report the hazard immediately to ensure no one gets hurt. By taking these actions, we reduce the risk and keep the workplace safe for everyone. Here is another example of a hazard: boxes stacked precariously. Precariously means the boxes are not stable. They could easily tip over or fall. Imagine walking past a pile of boxes stacked this way. One wrong move and they might collapse, causing injury. Just like frayed electrical cords, precariously stacked boxes are a workplace hazard. Hazards can appear in many forms, whether electrical, physical, or even something as simple as poor storage. So what should be done right away? Yes, very good. The boxes should be reorganized and stored properly, with heavier items placed at the bottom and lighter ones on top. Shelves or storage racks should be used to keep them stable. Workers should also avoid stacking boxes too high and make sure pathways are clear. Another common hazard in workplaces is noisy machinery. When machines produce too much noise, they can damage a person's hearing over time. Continuous exposure may lead to hearing loss or other health problems. That's why noisy machinery is considered a hazard. It poses a risk to our safety and well-being. To prevent this, workers should use protective equipment like earplugs or earmuffs, and employers should ensure machines are maintained properly to reduce noise levels. So remember, hazards aren't just accidents waiting to happen. They're risks we can recognize before they cause harm. A risk is simply the chance that a hazard might actually hurt someone.
By staying alert and paying attention to our surroundings, we can protect ourselves and the people around us. And now we'll talk about hazards in ICT environments. These are risks we might encounter when working with computers and electronic equipment, and knowing them helps us stay safe and avoid accidents. First, we have physical hazards. Imagine cables running across the floor. Someone could trip over them. Or a slippery floor near the computer area. This can cause falls. That's why it's important to always keep the workspace tidy and dry. Next are mechanical hazards. The computer chassis or the outer casing has sharp edges, and if we're careless while opening or moving it, we might get cuts or scrapes. This is why handling equipment carefully is so important. We also have chemical hazards. Cleaning chemicals for displays and keyboards, compressed gas sprays for dust, and other solvents can be harmful if inhaled or spilled. To stay safe, we should use them in well-ventilated areas and follow the instructions on the label. Another big risk is electrical hazards. Inside computers and electronic devices, there are live wires and circuits, and if we open them without proper training, we could get shocked. This is especially dangerous with CRT monitors, which store high voltage even when turned off. So never open these devices unless you're qualified. So remember, ICT environments may look safe, but hazards are everywhere: physical, mechanical, chemical, and electrical. By being aware and careful, we protect ourselves and others while working with technology. In organizing ICT environments, we use the principle of 5S, a Japanese methodology that helps us maintain safety, efficiency, and order in the workplace. The first step is seiri, which means sorting or putting things in order. This involves removing or discarding items that are not needed so that there are fewer hazards and less clutter to interfere with work. Only the essential tools and equipment should remain in the workspace. Now, can anyone give an example of something in our classroom that we could remove because it's not really needed? The second step is seiso, which stands for cleanliness. This means keeping the workplace clean and polished, making sure the trash or dirt is removed regularly. A clean environment not only looks better, but also prevents accidents and equipment damage. Think about your computer area at home. What's one thing you do to keep it clean? The third step is seitan, which refers to orderliness or proper arrangement. This principle reminds us to place things in such a way that they can be easily reached whenever they're needed. In other words, there must be a place for everything, and everything must be in its place. Look around. Do you see any items that are not in their proper place? How could we arrange them better? The fourth step is seiketsu, which means standardize or purity. This step is about maintaining cleanliness consistently. It's not enough to clean once. Cleanliness must become part of everyone's daily work routine. By standardizing cleaning practices, we ensure that the workplace remains safe, organized, and efficient at all times. If we made cleaning part of our daily routine, what small habit could we start today? Finally, the fifth step is shitsuke, which stands for sustaining, discipline, or commitment. This principle emphasizes maintaining the standards we have set and making them a habit. It requires discipline from everyone to keep the facility in safe and efficient order, not just occasionally, but always. When we practice shitsuke, we commit ourselves to a culture of safety and organization, ensuring that the improvements we make are sustained over the long term. Why do you think discipline is important in keeping our ICT environment safe and organized? By following all 5 steps, seiri, seiso, seitan, seiketsu, and shitsuke, we create ICT environments that are not only clean and organized, but also safe and efficient, allowing us to focus on our tasks without distractions or risks. Now, let's look at some common hazards we might encounter in a computer laboratory. 1. Inkjet printer. 2. Running cables on the floor. 3. Keyboard cleaning chemicals. 4. inside computers and electronic equipment. 5. Slippery floor. What appropriate 5 S's are indicated in the following images? Now let's analyze two situations together. 1. The wet floor in a computer laboratory is a hazard. However, no one is using the laboratory because the learners are on summer vacation. Do you think the risk is high? Why? 2. Suppose you are the owner of a computer shop and you notice that the wires are hanging loosely. How would you resolve this problem? All right, class, let's take a look at this table. On the left, we have common 5S in hazards in ICT, and on the right, organizing ICT environments. Now, I want you to fill in the table with your own examples. Think about what you've seen in our lab or computer shop and how each 5S can help prevent hazards. Now, before we end our lesson, let's quickly recall what we've learned today. We were able to identify the different hazards and risks in ICT environments, things like electrical, physical, and chemical hazards that can affect both people and equipment. We also enumerated the 5S principles in organizing ICT environments: sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. These help us maintain a safe, clean, and efficient workspace. Remember, safety and organization go hand in hand. When we apply the 5S, we don't just protect our tools, we protect ourselves and make learning more enjoyable. Thank you for listening and participating, everyone. This concludes our lesson. Thank you for watching.